over, and now that a chief no longer had the power of life and death over his people, their feelings for him would obviously not be the same. "Well, all I can say," Lord Hinchley remarked as he sipped his brandy, "is that if I have to travel back in the Royal George with His Majesty, I shall lie down in my cabin and drink myself insensible until we reach Tilbury." "It will be calmer on your return," the Duke said automatically, as if he was thinking of something else. "And as the King is a good sailor, he will expect you to be on your feet, telling him how much the Scots appreciated his visit." "The question is, will they?" Lord Hinchley asked. "I blame Walter Scott for inspiring the monarch with this urgent desire to come to Edinburgh. If the Scots have any sense, they will cut him down with their claymores and stick their dirks into him." The Duke did not speak, and Lord Hinchley continued. "My grandfather served in the Cumberland army, which took part in the Battle of Culloden. His description of the manner in which the Scots were massacred and the cruelties inflicted on the survivors afterwards should make any Englishman think twice before he braves the vengeance which is undoubtedly still seething in their breasts." "It was a long time ago," the Duke remarked. "I would not mind betting you that they have not forgotten," Lord Hinchley replied. "I think you're right about that." "Of course I am right," Lord Hinchley said positively. "All barbaric people have their feuds, their vendettas, their curses, which are carried on from generation to generation." "You are very voluble on the subject," the Duke remarked. "When His Majesty told me I was to come here as an advance guard and see that he was properly received when he arrives in Edinburgh, I took the trouble to mug up some of the facts about Scotland and the Scottish." Lord Hinchley paused before he added, "I don't mind telling you, Taran, the English behaved damn badly to the wretched people they conquered, entirely because they were better organised and carried muskets." The Duke did not reply, and after a moment Lord Hinchley said, "My grandfather used to relate to me when I was a small boy how the clans were mown down at Culloden, as they marched hungry and wet after a night in the open, across bad terrain, their chiefs leading them straight into the gunfire." The Duke rose to his feet with what was an angry gesture. "For God's sake, William, stop trying to make my flesh creep about battles that happened long before we were born. We have both been pressured into coming on this accursed voyage, and the quicker we do what we have to do and return home, the better." There was so much anger in the Duke's voice that his friend looked at him curiously. Then he said, "I had the idea that this, in fact, is your home." He saw the Duke's fingers clench as if he had touched him on the raw. Then, because he was extremely fond of his friend, he said in a soothing tone, "Have another drink. There is nothing like good French brandy to make the world seem a pleasanter place." The Duke filled his glass from the crystal decanter that had a broad, flat bottom so that it would not fall off the table with the roll of the ship. As he felt the fiery liquid seeping through his body, he knew that instead of soothing him and bringing him some comfort, it merely accentuated his anger and apprehension at what lay ahead. He had had no intention when his father died of returning to Scotland. He had cut himself off from the McNarns when he had run away with his back crossed and bleeding from the weals inflicted by his father's whip. If they liked to think of him as a renegade, they could do so. He did not intend to concern himself with anyone's feelings but his own. After he left university, he had found that with plenty of money to spend, and with looks which made women gravitate towards him like moths to a lighted candle, he had no time to think of anything but his own pleasure. The Prince Regent liked to have young bucks and beaux around him, encouraging them in the extravagances of dress that he affected himself. It was a fashion that had been set by his friend, Beau Brummel, to which he still adhered, even after they had quarrelled, and Brummel had died in exile. It was with the keen excitement of a child going to its first party that the King was planning now to appear in Scotland in full Highland regalia. He had ordered those who were to be in attendance on him in Edinburgh to wear their tartans, and finally to lead their clans at an enormous review that was to take place on the Portobello Sands on Friday the 23rd of August. The Duke had not thought for a moment that he would be expected to be present, but the King had made it quite clear that he must be there.